steadiness. And there's almost no one I know who's as steady as Ananda Bihari Prabhu. So thank you for that example. It's true. You can't deny it. You're here every day. So that's the case closed.
No glories to Srila Prabhupada. Breathing is every day, eating is every day, sleeping is every day. Why not Bhagavatam every day? No big deal. It's our
Why
life.
not?
Thank you, Anupam Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giri Varadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hmm. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor, a pleasure. Great to see everybody here. Sarab Prabhu, Jeffrey Ackler, Henry, Amrita Kishori in her bunny form blinking. Always a pleasure. Here we are in the Srimad Bhagavatam, a fantastic verse, 11.4.6. Let me share my screen here. Check. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet. Here we are. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 4, Text 6. Dharmasya daksha duhitarya janishta murtyam narayano nararishi pravarava prashantaha naishkarmya laksha chachara karma yodhyapi chashtra vrishivarya nishevitangrihi. Would anybody like to chant the verse? Anybody available? Give us a little Sanskrit here.
धर्मस्य अजिनस्तमूर्त्यं नारायणो नरऋषिप्रवरः प्रशान्ता नैष्कर्म्यलक्षणमुवाच चचार कर्मा योऽद्यापि चास्तऋषिवर्यनिषेविताङ्घ्रि.
Nice, Prabhu. Synonyms: Dharmasya, the wife of Dharma. Daksha Duhitari, by the daughter of Daksha. Ajanishta, was born. Murtyam, by Murti. Narayana, Nara. Nara Narayana. Rishi Pravaraha, the best of the sages. Prashantaha, perfectly peaceful. Naishkarmya Lakshanam, characterized by the cessation of all material work. Uvacha, he spoke. Chachara, and performed. Karma, the duties. Yeah, Who, adyap api, even today. Cha, also, aste, is living. Rishi Varya, by the great sages. Nishevita, being served. Angrihi, his feet. Translation. Nara Narayana Rishi, who is perfectly peaceful and is the best of sages, was born as the son of Dharma and his wife Morti, the daughter of Daksha. Narayan Rishi taught the devotional service of the Lord, by which material work ceases, and he himself perfectly practiced this knowledge. He is living even today, his lotus feet served by the greatest of saintly persons. Purport. It is understood that Narayana Rishi spoke transcendental knowledge to great saintly persons such as Narad Muni. On the basis of these teachings, Narada was able to describe Naishkarmyam, or the devotional service of the Lord, which eradicates material work, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 138, Tantram Sattvatam Achashta Naishkarmyam Karmanam Yataha. The Atma Swarup, or eternal form of the living entity, is devotional service to the personality of Godhead. But our perception of our eternal form is covered by a material concept of life, just as our normal understanding of our life is covered by a dream. Naishkarmyam, or the cessation of material work, is possible only by the devotional service of the Lord, as stated by Narada Muni himself. Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava varjitam nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam. Bhagavatam 1.5.12. The process of transforming ordinary karma into naishkarmya, or transcendental work, is summarized by Srila Prabhupada in his commentary on this verse, spoken by Narada Muni. Quote, fruitive work in which almost all people in general are engaged is always painful, either in the beginning or at the end. It can be fruitful only when made subservient to the devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also, it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. The bona fide enjoyer of the fruitive work is the personality of Godhead, and thus, when it is engaged for the sense gratification of living beings, it becomes an acute source of trouble. According to the Matsya Purana 310, Dharma, the father of Narayana Rishi, was born from the right breast of Brahma and later married 13 daughters of Prajapati Daksha. The Lord himself appeared from the womb of Morti Devi. Om Ajnanatirminandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai. Well, a very powerful verse, and a couple of really powerful verses were mentioned within it. One of them being one of my favorite verses of all time that I am constantly, literally, I mean, not in a humble way. I'm always thinking of this verse because the idea of it, the crux of it, comes up so much in my life, literally every day, practically all the time. This verse 1.5.12, where it says, Naishkarmyam apchuta bhava varjitam nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam kuta puna shashvata bhajram ishware nacharpitam karma yadaptakaranam. It says, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible, God. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? One of the reasons why this verse comes up so much for me is the fact that when we look out into the world, especially if we happen to live or work in a place like New York City, we may happen to notice the fact that things aren't so beautiful there. And that the idea of beauty, of shobate, that's mentioned here, doesn't just relate to some kind of physical, aesthetically pleasing, vision, but it actually refers to this underlying quality that is extant within anything and everything that's not dedicated to the service of Krishna. There's a certain lacking there, and there's a very obvious sense that this is unnatural, I would say. And and it becomes more and more obvious the more and more that we practice devotional service. The fact that there's something missing here, and there's a true beauty somewhere, but this is clearly not it. Even in the most beautiful of people or of places, there's always, as I heard one Prabhupada disciple describe it, some meat in the teeth. He says there's always some meat in the teeth, even in the most beautiful of models that we may see on the runway or otherwise. If we look a little closer, if we analyze a bit more, then it becomes obvious that while on the surface we may perceive some beauty, if we dig a little deeper, it's not what it seems. So imagine living in a world like that where everything that we see, even though we perceive it as something beneficial, as something useful, in reality it's lacking and uh, given to disappointment. And the uh, the beautiful thing, though, that is there in the world is the fact that this is all a dream, as it's being described in the purport here. Actually, the material world itself is based on illusion. And so, yeah, it's a fact that we're having this illusion of water in the desert, this illusion of beauty, this illusion of something that can satisfy us, that we could benefit from. But the fact is that those things that we're seeking, beauty, satisfaction, love, and so forth, are existing someplace else. Otherwise, how could we think that we're perceiving them unless they actually exist somewhere else? That argument is given against the Mayavadis or Brahmavadis who believe everything is one, that if we are under the illusion that there is variety, how could we come under that illusion? How could we conceive of variety if it never existed in the first place? And so in the same way, how could we come under the illusion of what we're seeing with our material senses being satisfying, being beautiful, and so on and so forth, unless there is some beautiful, satisfying reality that we're just not attuned to at the moment. So the process of awakening ourselves to that beautiful reality is so beautiful in and of itself, and there's nothing more natural that we could do with our time and with our lives. It's being described here that the natural state of the jiva, the natural state of the living entity, is that of devotional service, of loving service to Krishna. Everything else is just a perversity. But simply a matter of awakening to that reality. And how do we awaken to that reality is the big question. So there's so many wonderful verses that describe this process of awakening, of this return to Krishna, this return to who we actually are. It's an epic story, and it's so epic and so beautiful. It was written about by Sanatana Goswami in his book, The Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where we see the journey of one Gopakumar from the material world back to Goloka Vrindavan, back to Krishna. And that story is predicated on a few crucial points I'd like to discuss here. Because for those of us who are sadhakas, what could be more valuable than learning how to go back to Krishna? And it's very easy to get sidetracked, to start thinking, I would say, to make it more complicated than it needs to be. But actually, Krishna consciousness, the process of awakening our love for Krishna, is the simplest, most natural thing we could do. It's like learning how to walk. Prabhupada gave that example. It's simply a matter of surrendering to our nature as beings that are able to walk, instead of thinking that we can uh, just jump into the material ocean and swim in a place that we're not naturally, um, where we don't naturally belong. So one of the most beautiful verses in this regard, one of the ones that I also try to think of often, comes in the Brahma Samhita. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. Premanjana churita bhakti. So in the it's discussing how when one's eyes are finally uh, reawakened with the salve of love for Krishna, then one sees reality, which is beautiful, which is satisfying. It's simply a matter of developing that love for Krishna. It says in the purport to that verse, when Krishna manifested himself in Braj, both the devotees and the non-devotees saw him with this very eye. But only the devotees cherished him, eternally present in Braj as the priceless jewel of their heart. Nowadays, also, the devotees see him in Braj, in their hearts, which are saturated with devotion, although they do not see him with their eyes. The eye of devotion is nothing but the eye of the pure, unalloyed spiritual self of the jiva. The form of Krishna is visible to that eye in proportion to its purification by the practice of devotion. So again, the love is there for Krishna, the ability to see reality, to see what is truly beautiful and truly satisfying in the world is natural. It's always there. It's simply a matter of revealing it, of awakening the eyes, opening the eyes. So how do we do that exactly? I'm a very kind of gross and sometimes brash, I would say, person. Unfortunately, it's gotten me in trouble from time to time. You can ask my wife, Mani Manjri. But one of the good things about it is the fact that it's forced me, and it forces me every day to really consider what are the nuts and bolts of attaining what I want, basically. And if I want love for Krishna, if I want to awaken my natural love for Krishna, what are the nuts and bolts of that? What are the essential activities that I can do to satisfy that longing? And so luckily, when I started coming around Krishna conscious sanghas, it didn't take very long for me to figure that out. And that's by design, of course, because we know in Kali Yuga, we're of shorter attention spans. And so Shukadev Goswami made it apparent at the very outset of Srimad Bhagavatam exactly how to reveal our natural love for Krishna. He says in the hallmark verse of the Krishna consciousness movement, if I do say so myself, Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana hridantak stoha bhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam, in which it's described that Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the benefactor of the truthful devotee, Krishna himself cleanses the desire for material enjoyment. In other words, he cleanses the heart. He polishes the stone. He polishes the Shila in such a way that that love is naturally revealed. he does that to not just anybody, but to one who has developed the urge to hear about him through hearing his pastimes, through chanting his names. So here it is. That's it. Krishna himself personally cleanses the heart and reveals the love that we have for him if we have developed the urge to hear about him. So that may sound great, but then the question, of course, comes, how do we develop that urge? And that is answered in literally the verse next to it. Are you guys ready? You want to know? You have to wait till the next episode, so we're going to cut it off here. That's how they do it, right? No, it says very clearly right there. Shru Shru Sho Shadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Sanmahat Sevya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevana. By serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, one gains an affinity for hearing. So yesterday the question was brought up, what if we lose the urge to chant or the urge to hear? And what do we do then? And that answer is very clearly given here, that by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, then one develops that urge again. So if we throw ourselves into the service of Srila Prabhupada and of pure devotees, we'll find a natural awakening of the urge to hear and chant about Krishna. So it's very simple in that sense. If we want to awaken our eyes, if we want to be able to see reality, which, by the way, is the only way that we can be satisfied, the only way we can be happy in this world, then we need to develop the urge to hear about Krishna. And how do we develop that urge? It's by serving his devotees. And once we develop that urge, then Krishna himself personally will cleanse our heart and reveal our natural love for him. So beautiful, so simple, almost so simple you could miss it completely. So the underlying, the real nuts and bolts, according to what we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam and what Srila Prabhupada has given us, is to follow the simple path very strictly, to master the basics. If we can do that, then we can fly, right? If we give very serious and steady and consistent attention to our japa in the morning, and we very seriously and attentively hear about Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes, Lord Krishna and his pastimes, then, and of course, if we serve devotees, especially those pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada and many of his disciples and many others, if we do those things very honestly, very sincerely, and consistently, then we'll see over time um, a revealment of our natural love for Krishna, and thus we'll be situated in absolute perfection. Now, what does that literally look like? I'm glad you asked, because there's quite a verse that I'd like to enter into evidence here, which changed my life when I read it and changed someone else's life when they heard it as well. His name was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when his spiritual master was asked what the essence of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is, he replied with this particular verse that is life-changing. So if anybody doesn't want to have their life completely turned upside down, we suggest you leave the Zoom meeting at once. Otherwise, here at your own risk. So It says in the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 40th verse, by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries, or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. And I'll just close with this purport given to that verse. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also notes that the word Juta Chitta, or with a melted heart, indicates that one's heart, melted by the fire of anxiety to see the Lord, becomes like Jambu Nadi, a river of rose apple juice. The Acharya further points out Nama Kirtanasya Sarvot Karsam. The present and previous verse clearly distinguish the exalted position of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, chanting and hearing the name and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also emphasized this by quoting Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nam Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, 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 Katir Anyata. Quote, in this age of Kali, there is no alternative, there is no alternative, there is no alternative for spiritual progress, but the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. In his purports to Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 7.76, Srila Prabhupada has given an elaborate explanation of this verse. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur recommends that we study the following verse in this connection. Parivatu pariva datu jano yata tatava nanu mukaro navayam vicharyaman yama hari rasa madira madati mata bhuvi vilu tamo natamo nir vishama. Quote, let the garrulous populace say whatever they like. We shall pay them no regard. Thoroughly maddened by the ecstasy of the intoxicating beverage of love for Krishna, we shall enjoy life running about, rolling on the ground, and dancing in ecstasy. Padyavali 73. So, in summary, there's this, which we just read, which is overwhelmingly beautiful and transformative in a way that is wholly of a different category as compared to the so-called beauty of the material world, in which even the most beautiful of people, if you look a little closer, you'll see the meat in the teeth, you'll see the um, the actual nature of that beauty, which is so transitory and so degraded in comparison. So by serving the devotees, we develop an affinity for hearing and chanting about Krishna. And when we have that affinity, Krishna himself will reveal the love that is naturally there for him. And through that love, through those eyes that Krishna bestows upon us that are smeared with the salve of love, then we see Krishna everywhere. And every word becomes a song, every step becomes a dance, and we no longer live in the ordinary material world, but we become absorbed in the loving, ecstatic, eternal pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna. So, thank you very much for your time. We'll see if anybody would like to say anything, any comments, questions.
Thank you, Anupama Prabhu. Great class. Meat in the teeth is my takeaway. Thank you. Very strong, very easy to relate. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I got that from Rajendra Nandana Prabhu, who many of you may remember. He left his body during COVID. But if you haven't heard from him, I highly recommend checking out his classes. There's some on YouTube. There's a lot on ISKCON Desire Tree. He lived in Mayapur. He was from the South, humble devotee, worked pretty regular job throughout his life, retired, moved to Mayapur, and he was ecstatic. So one of the things he taught me was we don't need to be a hero in devotional service. We don't need to strive to be some great devotee, but by doing everything that we can with great love for Krishna, then we'll be fully satisfied and we'll be able to do much more impactful service for Srila Prabhupada and for our spiritual master than had we tried to become um, some big name sort. So yeah, Rajendra Nandana, he's great. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for class. This is Shari Sundri. Um, just wanted to ask you the verse, the Naseva, Naseva. I keep forgetting where it is, and I wanted to look it up and copy it down. Can you share where it's from?
Yes, I believe it's Adi Leela. I'm not sure. Maybe Madan Gopal Prabhu would know exactly where it is. I think it's quoted in Adi Leela 776. I think it may be from a different Purana or Vedic text. Not sure. Let me see. It's definitely there in Adi Leela.
Madhya Lila,
Madhya Leela.
6:242.
62.
6242?
Yeah, so Madhya Lila chapter 6, verse number 242.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Haribo.
Hmm. Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of nuggets like that you can put in your pocket and um, bring them out when needed. Different pastimes, different um, quotes either by Krishnadas Kaviraj, by Lord Chaitanya himself. One thing I noted from the CC that I found really interesting was Lord Chaitanya himself. He wasn't going and standing on soapboxes and telling everybody what to do, that they should surrender to Krishna and give up their sinful activities, things like that. He was actually going around from town to town and holding ecstatic kirtans, giving people an experience of Krishna consciousness. And in that way, he was converting the whole of India to devotees. So I found that in my own life that ultimately the best way to inspire somebody else in Krishna consciousness is to be overflowing with it myself. If I'm filling up my cup as much as possible with hearing and chanting in a deep way, then my interaction with somebody, even if it's only a few words, can be a lot more powerful than had I been chanting bad rounds and gave somebody a whole class. So Lord Chaitanya, of course, came to show by his own example how we can spread the Krishna consciousness movement. And throughout the Madhya Lila, especially, you'll find different examples of this where Lord Chaitanya was giving people an experience of Krishna consciousness um, uh, through his own overflow, what he was experiencing. Looks like we have something in the chat from Nityananda Chandra Prabhu. Prahlad once fought Nara Narayan rishis for 1,000 celestial years because he thought that they were fake yogis, because they were yogis, but they were sporting weapons. After which he realized that this was a form of the Lord and conquered him with devotion. Nice. That's cool. I've never heard that before. I like how even pure devotees can become confused or make mistakes. Kind of a radical thing to accept for me at one point. I was like, what? How can pure devotees make mistakes? They're talking to Krishna, they're seeing Krishna, but it's a fact. It's all over the Bhagavatam. You look at Vyasadeva, who is an incarnation himself, and he compiled the whole Vedas. And then Narada Muni said, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Now people are going to get misled and they're going to think that it's okay to just perform fruitive activities. It's going to take too long. It's Kali Yuga. Who's going to stay on that path? He made a mistake, and then he corrected it by the writing of the Bhagavatam. Um, and it's very nicely described in the Upadeshamrita, where it said there's a beautiful verse, Gangam Basam Nakalubud Buddha Pena Pankar, where it says that just as the Ganges may sometimes appear to be contaminated either by foam or litter, you should never consider it actually impure. The Ganges itself is always pure. On the surface, it may appear to have been contaminated. But in the same way, the devotees, even though on the surface they may sometimes appear to make a mistake or suffer from some ailment, either physical or mental, they themselves are never to be considered impure. They're uh, they're pure by nature, as we read in this verse. The devotees, they've revealed that nature. So good to know. Even Prahlad made a mistake, so to speak. Yes, Madan Gopal saying the same verse. Is there an Adi Lila as well? Whenever something's mentioned twice, you know it's important. Never by mistake. So, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Chanting. And yes, there it is. Originally from the Brihan Naradiya Purana. That's exactly right. Just trying to figure that one. So yeah, Jayadvaita Swami likes to say it's the same old answer. People often come to him with different problems. Of course, there's always some nuance and there's different ways we can adjust to to better situate ourselves. But the whole point of any adjustment is always to better situate ourselves for the sake of chanting good japa and doing Harinam, Sankirtan. If we make our decisions in life, if we make our adjustments according to according to what will allow us to more deeply absorb ourselves in our japa, and we do those things in an honest way, not in a fanatical way, we do those in an honest way, in a realized way, then we'll see that Krishna will take care of us. He'll take personal interest in our life. He'll reveal our love for him, and he'll make sure that we're properly taken care of so that we can keep on doing our japa. And then when the time comes, or it's time to leave everything behind, even if everything's ripped away from us, then at that point we'll be satisfied with just a little room, little kitchery, little Bhagavatam, and our japa beads. And so it won't matter once things are taken away. And of course, eventually that'll manifest in the form of everything being taken away at the time of death. And when that time comes, we'll also be okay with it. We'll be happy to be returning to Krishna in a more direct way. Saurabh Prabhu, lots of love and respect. I think you're muted, Prabhu.
You heard it. Much love and respects to everyone. Thank you. Quickly, I was just gonna say, as you're giving your class and saying so many things, I find myself internally just saying Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, and that was throughout. And so, thank you. The things you say are full of wisdom, amazing. Thank you, Hari Bol.
Thank you. All glories to Prabhupada. You've made it easy for me as someone who's so brash and just into the nuts and bolts. You made it very clear what they are. And yeah, I find it inspiring to focus on those things and try to really master them. There's a lot of satisfaction there in focusing on the main things. Narottam Nitai Prabhu.
Hey, Nonetheless, Prabhuji, I wanted to ask a little bit of a maybe esoteric or existential question, and that is, what does it mean to be a devotee? And I want to ask because I know chapter 16, the first few verses talks about divine versus demonic natures. So I just want to know, what does it mean to be a devotee? I also know that devotees are described as swan-like because of the swans are able to separate milk from water and stuff like that. So I just wanted to know, like, I just wanted to ask you, Prabhu, like, what does it mean to be a devotee in terms of quality or character, etc.?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's definitely all kinds of devotees. That's described also in the Upadeshamrita, that there are different levels, and so it may be difficult to pin down an exact list of qualities. It could be possible that someone who's devotee may exhibit certain qualities that may be indicative that they're not a devotee. But at the crux of it is an underlying intention to want to please Krishna and want to serve Krishna. So in one sense, everybody's a devotee. That's understood by the Uttama Adhikaris. They see that everybody is a devotee because everybody has this inherent desire to please Krishna and to serve Krishna. And it just is manifest in different degrees. So in terms of what's a devotee, how to identify one, there's a conversation that happens also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which there's different levels of devotees being described. And it goes up through different gradations. First, it said one who chants Hare Krishna one time is a devotee. So that's the bottom rung. And at the top rung, it's described one who, when somebody sees them, they automatically become inspired to chant Hare Krishna. They're a devotee. So there's all different kinds of gradations. But the safe place is to feel that everybody's a devotee. Everybody's just expressing their devotion in a different way, even if they're completely covered over by ignorance. Jai Giridhari Prabhu, who was a role model for me for a long time, still is. But he told me one time that he was sitting in the Bhakti Center with Radhanath Swami, and they were just kind of talking back and forth. And Radhanath Swami was kind of putting his finger, kind of like rubbing the wood underneath them. They were sitting on the ground. And he said something along the lines of, even this wood, by its pattern that it's manifested here, because even when you chop up wood, put it on the ground, you can still see the growth of it at certain that took place when it was a tree. He said, even this tree, this old tree, this wood that we see here, it's trying to express its love for Krishna. It's just doing so in its own way that's covered over. So you could say that that tree is also a devotee. So the Uttamadikar is lead by example, and they're seeing everybody as a devotee isn't a sentimental thing. It's actually reality. Everybody's everybody has inherent love for Krishna. That's spoken of in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. That is Madhya Lila 22:107. It's described that love for Krishna is eternally there in the heart. It's not something to be gained from another source. So that's a good modus operandi is to view everybody as a lover of Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare
Yes.
Krishna. Sorry to interrupt. I just want, before the subject changed, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, once again, Krishnadas Kaviraj mentions the 26 quality of a devotee. So these are the fruits of the tree. One will know them by the fruits, by their fruits. What's coming off. So those 26 qualities of a devotee. If you ever want to know what a devotee is or how far along we ourselves are devotees, like what do I got? Go over the 26 qualities and see how much of that is a natural for you. That's, of course, we should be more. I hear that. Can't remember who said it within the movement. But devotees recognize, devotees who are well along in their path recognize other people who are well along in their path. And it's not, of course, like you said, everyone's on the path. Krishna says, everyone follows my path. There is no doubt. Um, so everybody's on that path. Some of them are taking the long way home. But I think the 26, if anybody wants to feel what true, uh, what it means to be gently humbled, to knock yourself down a peg, which is probably the safest thing that we can do in Krishna consciousness, is to take a good look at ourselves. Um, and look at the 26 qualities of the devotee in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm not sure which volume it's in, but it's definitely, actually, it could be in the Nectar of Devotion as well. Though that will really give you a good idea of what kind of tree you're looking at. Is this an apple tree? Is this apple tree healthy? What do the fruits look like? What do the fruits of my behavior look like? Hare Krishna.
Nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, those are there. We see that in Bhagavad Gita as well, chapter 12. Krishna describes one who is very dear to him. And one of the key verses, one of the key aspects of those verses is one who is a kind friend to all living entities is especially dear to him. So we could meditate on that and be very careful also when we look at these qualities, whether in the Gita or in other places, to not think, oh, well, because this devotee doesn't appear to be humble or doesn't appear to be a poet, a kavi, then that means they're not a devotee. And then we may not treat them the same way. But it's a fact that as we progress in our Krishna consciousness, then the natural devotion that makes one a devotee will become more and more prominent. And so that's definitely there. Thank you. Madan Gopal Prabhu, is there anything you'd like to share? Anything I missed or anything you'd like to add, Prabhu?
No, thank you so for beautifully sharing. Um, I guess we're not having darshan today, it seems. But anyway, the one point about, I like the point even where Nityananda Chandra Prabhu wrote about Prahlad getting confused, and you kind of highlighted that devotees can get confused, can make mistakes. Even if we are, imagine you are in the personal direct service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like you're traveling with him, you're seeing Radha Krishna combined, and you're serving direct as a direct servant. This happened to his servant known as Krishnadas. and he was in a traveling party with him, and he got lured by these gypsies or some other group, the Bhattaharis, and by the women there. So you can imagine. And Mahaprabhu then had to go into the camp of those Bhattaharis and personally drag him out and save him. So my point is that we should never be under the impression that my level of Krishna conscious practice is solid enough that I'm safe.
Mm.
You know, we should always be praying to the Lord, my Lord, today is a new day. Given my proclivities, it's a very good chance I'll turn away from you.
Mm.
Therefore, please save me today. Please don't let me fall into this idea that I can be happy without you. Something simple like that. Because those examples are there for our edification and for our wake-up call to really remind us that don't ever be slack. One time Srila Prabhupada was crying in front of the deities, shedding tears, and he was just like this. And then later, one devotee who saw that, he asked Srila Prabhupada, I noticed you were really crying in front of the deities and you're praying very intensely. Would you mind sharing what that was about? And Prabhupada said, I was praying that I don't fall into Maya today. So you can imagine someone great like Srila Prabhupada was also praying that. So he's teaching us that we should never take it for granted that we will not fall into illusion or will not abandon our practices. It's very easy to do that, no matter what level of our practice is. So anyway, these are some thoughts that we can easily make mistakes. We don't take it for granted. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
It's great, Prabhu. Thank you. It's such a sweet place to live as well, as someone fully dependent on Krishna. That we're not the big guy, we're not by our own power. No, Krishna, without you, I'm finished. Without you, I'll be swept away completely. I'm just a fly in the ocean, in the middle of the ocean, on an island. Somehow, by my spiritual master's grace, somehow I found this little buoy in the middle of the ocean. But at any moment, I know that a wave can come, and I'll be blasted down into the ocean again. And so yeah, it's a great point. If we can maintain that attitude that I'm completely dependent on your mercy, Krishna, please help me. It's such a sweet place to live. We'll find so much reciprocation and satisfaction there. And we'll be safe. We'll be safe for sure.
What Madan Gopal Prabhu spoke about reminded me of what they say in AA meetings. All they have is that one day that they don't take to the heaven. One day, forget yesterday, forget tomorrow, just one day. I'm going to concentrate on what matters. So, thank you.
Nice.
Madan Gopal Prabhu, you have experience in AA? Where did you get that wisdom from?
No, I'm not familiar with the details. I hope I don't have to join the AA for it.
Thank you.
But then you never know.
In 200 feet, turn right.
I see Sadhvi Didi has her hand up as well.
Sadhvi?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for today. I just want to say I go to a meeting, but not because I am addicted to anything. The only thing is I feel that association with them also is somewhat, good for me, because I see by their experiences when they talk and so on, I learn a lot, and I learn how to see my children, because I have 6 adult children. I need to understand the whole situation with addiction so that I can see how can I be helpful for my children if I see something like that. So I go to AA meeting, and I think it's very, very good. For me, it was very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. I once went to a devotional AA meeting, and it reminded me of the afterglow, because This is our afterglow. Same thing. Testimonies, support. Thank you. Bhima Prabhu, you have something to say on the AA subject?
I know. Oh, is the sound okay?
Yep.
Okay. I know that Radhanath Maharaj loves the philosophy, if you've ever looked into it. And what's great about it is that you're dealing with people who are, is the word patita pavana? Like they've come to most falling, and an alcoholic doesn't, or someone who's addicted doesn't turn around until they hit the street, like until there's no further down they can go. And then it's like, well, how do I pull myself up off this pavement? Literally, I've had a few friends. I just had my best friend a year back pass from alcoholism. A best friend from back in college. I've known him for, of course, 40 years, and it was not a surprise, of course, but he really was crying out for God at that time. And it was a cry that was with sincerity. Unfortunately, it was rather late, and he had already done the damage. And but these people in these AA meetings, when they turn their lives around, they learn to depend on that Krishna, God. They do a higher power. They don't push a particular iconography, or they don't push. It's just basically there's a higher power within yourself, and only through that surrender to that power and dependence, and not only dependence in general, philosophically speaking, but dependence on a day-to-day, moment by moment, because there's always whispers in the ears of an addict, moment by moment, to just run and hide behind the legs of God, the protector. And they also depend on each other. Everyone has a sponsor. That means someone they can confide in, someone who will save them, like, don't do it, I'm coming over, type of thing. So Radhanath Maharaj has always, I think I listened to a lecture. He's given a few. He's not a lecture, a talk at AA meetings, and he is very much appreciative of the sincerity of people who do that, and it goes to show, even with us as devotees, that a lot of the times, one of the tests of who is a devotee, when you ask yourself, am I a devotee? The question will be, when everything starts getting taken away from you, as Anupama was saying, when things start getting taken away from you, do you go grasping after those things to rebuild those things, or do you grasp more now towards Krishna? Are you heading more into your spiritual nature, or are you still trying to maintain attachment, addiction to material nature? So yeah, AA is very, and we should always, if meeting somebody who's in AA, have respect, because they are really, patita pavana. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, they're nice and humble and surrendered, the AA people. Radhanath Maharaj says AA is 100% bona fide and good program. Sweet. Thank you, Anupam Prabhu. Thank you, Bhima Pam Prabhu. What's the, Anupam Prabhu, you're a knower of Shastra. What's the closest verse in the Shastra, closest to the AA philosophy of one day, surrender, forget yesterday, forget the past, don't worry about the future, just one day? Is there a verse? Maybe Madan Gopal Prabhu, Nitai Chand.
Abandon all varieties of religion. Have no fear. Surrender unto me.
That's a good one, Bhima Prabhu. Thank you. Do you know the Sanskrit?
Bhima Pam.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm not so familiar with the philosophy, but it's about surrender and surrendering to a higher power, right?
One
Yeah,
day at a time.
one day at a time.
Because it's such
Yeah,
a burden to carry your past into your life, or carry the weight of the future, uncertainty. Madan Gopal Prabhu.
Yeah, I was saying a very good first of all, the AA has the 12 steps, right? And one of them is to acknowledge that you need help. And the other one of the steps is you need higher powers. That higher power part is very important. Um, so both of those concepts are encapsulated in that verse Devi Hesha Gunamayi, that this divine energy of mind, which is composed of three modes,
Mhm.
is very difficult to overcome. But in the same verse it says, but if you surrender to me, you can easily cross beyond. Mameva ye prapadyante maya metan tarantite. Taranti means to cross over very easily. So kind of reminds us of that painting where that devotee is being tossed around the waves of the ocean, and then Vishnu comes down on Garuda and lends a hand and pulls him out. We cannot pull ourselves out of the ocean. Only someone in a helicopter can come and pull us out of the water. So of course Vishnu comes. So that's the nature of addiction, any addiction, and even Arjuna says, by what is it that one is impelled to do things that even they know I'm not supposed to do? I know I'm not supposed to drink that alcohol, or no, I'm not supposed to smoke that whatever cigarette, but I can't help it. The pack on the cigarette, I mean, the sign on the cigarette says it'll kill you, and I'm opening it, and I know, but what is it compels me? And Krishna says it is lust alone, or kama. Kama means just, um,
Mhm.
if you go down to the roots of it, it's selfishness. How do I come out of my selfishness? And Krishna says that, then he says, of course, difficult to overcome, but you surrender to me. That's like Bhima Prabhu's, I think, initial quote was the ultimate quote for this is Sarvadharam, surrender unto me. So, and then of course there's many steps in AA program. There's the transformation, the character transformation, and so the transformation is not self-powered, it's grace-enabled. And so the entire Gita is around that. And making amends gradually. There's verses in the Gita about that. So actually at each of the 12 steps you can find distinct different verses in the Gita that support it. The gradual nature of it. So Krishna says, Shanai, Shanai, do it gradually. Don't worry, one step at a time. So it's that's why our devotees align so much with the AA program, is because it's almost like it's lifted straight from the Gita. And in one sense, all of us are in some kind of AA program. The material world itself is an AA program. Why? Because we're addicted to different things, not necessarily substances, but addicted to being selfish. And that's the bottom line of it. And addicted to turning away from Krishna and thinking he'll make us happy. So that's really the root addiction. Everything else is a manifestation of that. Sometimes it's very heavy in the mode of ignorance, which is where drugs and all come in. But then even mode of goodness is an addiction if it's used to turn away from Krishna. You see. So that's the bottom line, is that our turning away from the Lord is our problem, is our addiction, and our turning back to the Lord is our natural, healthy life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. Sadhvi?
Yes, I will give you an example for how the AA is different feeling. I remember when I was young, there was an older, very wise woman told me a story. The story was there was a person who had broken arm, and they took him to the hospital and they do everything, and he should cry, he should scream, he should say, "Oh, it's a pain." He didn't say anything. He just stand and take it and didn't say anything. And it went someday, he was just quiet, he doesn't complain, nothing. But one day he was together with his friend and they were going to somewhere. Suddenly, he starts screaming, "Ah, ah, ow!" And the friend got very, what happened? Why are you screaming like that? You have not saying anything in many days, and now? And he says, "Look at the other side of street. There was a man with broken leg was passing." He said, "He understand what I'm going through." If for you, you would not understand if I was complaining, but he understand me. I want to complain so that I have someone who was understanding me. So in AA, there are so many kind of how to say behavior addiction. There are not only alcohol, it's not only drugs, it's not only medicine, it's not only smoking, it's many different addiction. I have, as I said, I have 6 children, and I want to be vigilant and see how can I help my children without judgment, without thinking other than I'm here for you. Talk to me. Let me help you. So in AA, I feel, I see, I experience that many feels that way. They are feeling supported. They feel they can talk without being judged. Unfortunately, I must say very honestly, unfortunately, I have heard within the devotees that some of them have had some how to say judgment in their way of talking about it. That's why I think AA is very good to go to for people who has this difficulty. But the word will not go anywhere, and they are not going to be feel judged when they talk. So that's why I think AA is a very good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadhvi. Thank you for the story. I think we're now fully prepared for Sage and Sky. Sage, Sky, Annabelle, Isaiah. Where are you? Okay, we see Sage. Hare Krishna, good morning, Sage. How are you? We see Isaiah and Annabelle. Hare Krishna. Unmute yourself, chant loudly. Chant like there's no tomorrow.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Wow, this was so nice. Thank you so much. So loud, clear, sincere. Thank you. Thank you very much. Annabelle, Isaiah, Sage, Sky, you're the best. Thank you very much. Anupam Prabhu ki jai. Vaisheshika Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis and children and avatars, all glories to you. Thank you for your association. Have a wonderful day. Paw Patrol ki jai. AA ki jai. Thank you.